Well, I was, I'm grade one, grade one, so now I'm just Perrigan.
I did go to the Colonel
I'm
Bauer
Mayor
days.
Perrigan.
I saw you did that. Good job. Started doing that too.
Yeah. It's a cute little, I drove through there today at
All,
work.
what is it, 300 and some
Columbus.
voters?
And so I did drive through there
maybe it was
today,
even
but I can probably secure some signage spots for you.
Yeah, if you know some spots
Yeah.
that might be friendly, because
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. I don't know
Yeah.
what to really call over there.
Yeah. I
So
can,
can I stick a sign?
yeah.
To take a seat, we'll start this meeting. Call to order the meeting of the Morgan County Council for December 6, 2021. We are missing a member of our council this evening, Troy Sprinkle. His parents have been very ill, and his mother suffered a stroke yesterday. So I'm going to pray for their family, keep them in your prayers. Vicki, if you'll lead us in prayer, and Chip, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Absolutely.
We'll start with the pledge. If everyone will stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this free country in which we live in. We just thank you for all the blessings and glories that we receive from you. We just praise you as we enter this Christmas season, and let us all remember the true reason for this season. Dear Lord, we just ask that you wrap your loving arms around those in our community and in our world that need you, whether it be for spiritual healing or peace of mind or body healing. We just pray that you wrap your arms around the Ringer family, dear Lord, and help them to recover from the awful week that they've had and the days ahead. We pray that you be with others, dear Lord, that are losing loved ones, especially at this special time of year. We just pray that you be with them. Dear Lord, we pray for those who are serving our country, both on near and foreign soils. We pray for those in law enforcement and EMS services. Dear Lord, let us take a moment of silence and reflect upon the footprints that Brian Ringer left in our community, through our Sheriff's Department, through our Fair Board, through our Rotary Club, through his being a husband and a father and a grandpa. Be with that family, dear Lord. Amen.
Okay. Deb, if you'll let the record show we're all in attendance except Troy. Did everyone have a chance to go through the minutes from the November 15th meeting? If there's not any questions or changes, I look for a motion to approve.
Vicki Kivett makes a motion. We approve the minutes as was presented.
Chip Keller seconds.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Well, normally, this meeting of the year is the last of our additional appropriations, and unbelievably, we have none. So we'll move on to appropriation transfer, and I think the Sheriff's Office is the first one up for an appropriation transfer. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you. What we're wanting to do is to transfer some funds for some vehicles. Believe it or not, vehicles are going up. Guess how much our cars are going up? $8,000 per car.
Per car?
Not
Per vehicle.
surprised.
Yes, they just told us that for the new Explorers and police models. So
How are you on availability as far as what are they saying it's going to take to have them delivered?
if you got that crystal ball available, Vicki, we'll both know. Yes, absolutely. They say when you order it, we'll call you when they're in, and we'll get one here, two here. One
Okay.
here, two here. Yeah, it's kind of a slap shot when we get them. But and if we can keep the deer out of the side of them, we'll be a lot better off for going on. But As you can see, what we want to do is transfer from these, and I won't go through how that'll list there, folks, if you can see it there, of what we got, and to put it into our vehicle fund so we can buy some vehicles. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer. And thank you for mentioning Brian, I appreciate that.
You don't expect these to be purchased and taken possession of by the end of the year, I assume?
No, no.
So I know we've, in the past, and I talked to Dave about this, and I wanted to make sure we were okay. You do have purchase orders, though, for the vehicles, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Rich, is it just one vehicle? How many, like, what exactly are you getting?
We'll be getting, I think, is it 8, David? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone have any questions regarding that transfer?
And you're free to come out and ride one after we get it going if you want.
As long as lights and sirens.
Yeah, lights and siren, but you got to ride in the back.
We won't go into that right here. I make the motion, Melissa Green, make the motion to approve the appropriation transfers from said line items over to $83,627 in patrol cars.
We have a motion on the floor
Jason Maxwell seconds.
and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Anything else, Sheriff, for us tonight?
That'll do it.
All
Thank you,
right,
folks.
we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now he's back. You got the next one for the sheriff, too. Sheriff, you need to come back.
Yeah, you do have to come back up here.
Me into the
Oh. Oh. So I said, come on down. All right.
Long day. I've been in Indy. Okay, so the rest of it is for the overtime pay that we're wanting to take over to, also to put into patrol cars, which is $10,000, which will take it up to the total of $93,627.97. So from the 117.12200000005 to the 117444000000005. Please.
I'll make a motion to approve a transfer of $10,000 from overtime to patrol cars.
Only if he reads the numbers again.
Yeah.
We have a
So,
motion by Kelly Acala. Do I have a second?
Chip Keller will second.
And Chip Keller will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Now I think you're done.
Thank you, council, I'm done. Somebody else come up. Thank you.
All right, we'll move into the 2021 Salary Ordinance Amendment, and the first part of that, I believe, is the Title 4D Part-Time Deputy Prosecutor. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to ask for a line in the salary ordinance for next year for a part-time deputy prosecutor. And to kind of back up a little bit, Dan's been working with me. We had a deputy prosecutor leave 2 weeks ago, turn in his time. And we've had like almost no interest in the position. And so I contacted Lou Ransdale. He's a former deputy prosecutor, retired about a little over 26 months ago in fall of 2019. And he's agreed to come back and work for us part-time. We've kind of juggled around trying to find somewhere to pay him out of. And the problem we've got is we have to use the rest of this year's budget to pay out the PTO and all the other stuff. And we're kind of pulling funds from various other places. A person that left and would have been entitled to years of service, but they left early. So we're kind of pulling that together to pay out Brian Dywart's end of year leaving us. He was the deputy that left. And so I've talked to Dan, I've talked to the state. Now we have two funds available. And one is the incentive fund, which some of you may or may not be familiar with. We don't have to come get council approval for that, nor do we have to get council approval for the rate at which we pay out of it. We also have another fund called the PCA fund. And the PCA fund is a little fund we've been accumulating, putting in $40, $50, $100. And where it comes from is Mr. Soniga has a contract, and most counties do, with a debt collection agency. And they go after some of these harder-to-get cases, and they collect on that, they turn it into us, and we turn around and pay them a fee, they get a certain cut of it, and that's just been accumulating for a really long time. There's about, I want to say, between $10,000 and $11,000 in that. What we've found out from the state is if we pay out of that, we can submit those payments and get a reimbursement of 66%. However, to do that, we have to have a line item to pay at that rate. So what my proposal is to ask the council to put in the salary ordinance, part-time deputy prosecutor at the rate of $30 an hour. So that way, if necessary next year, we can pay him out of the PCA fund, or we might be paying out of Mr. Dyeworth's allocated funds for that position next year. Once we get past the January 1st, I think we'll have freed that up enough so that we could then pay out of that amount. But that's the reason we're asking for that. Are there any questions?
Well, we appreciate your homework you did on finding a way to fund that.
You anticipate replacing that full-time person?
We do it eventually, but we've had almost no interest.
Okay, in just 2 weeks, though, right? Has it been posted for 2 weeks?
When
Or-
did he give notice?
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He gave notice and everything.
But how long ago? How long have you known you were going to have a vacancy?
3 weeks? No, I'm sorry. He's been gone. This is his second week gone, and he gave us notice about 4 weeks prior.
So you're a month and a half into
Okay.
looking for someone.
Yeah, about that. About 5 weeks ago, he gave me notice, I think. With the holidays and everything, I'm a little fuzzy on it.
So if you would find a full-time person, you would anticipate not needing the part-time at that point?
Probably. There's no, on any of this, there's no additional cost to the county.
Right.
Right.
And we're just, it's putting in a vehicle to pay him out of more than one fund. I mean, we could do it out of the incentive money, but that is, I mean, it's drawn on other things. We have a part-time person we pay out of that, and we have another part-time person only works a couple hours a week, but we got a person that works for us about 29 hours a week, 28, 29, and we pay her, no, that's not, she doesn't work for us that much, she works for us 20 hours a week. And we pay her out of the incentive fund, but we try to use that for other things as well. We've done other projects and stuff and bought things out of it from time to time. But we'd like to be able to use the PCA because we don't get any reimbursement on the incentive fund. There used to be a time way back when we turned in incentive money, we got reimbursement, and it was like, it was a good deal. But statute changed about, 12 years ago maybe, early Clinton administration, no, it was after Clinton, it was early Obama administration right at that change, and they ended that. We no longer can get reimbursement on incentive money, but on this PCA, we can for some strange reason. And we just found out about that like 3 weeks ago.
My question is, when you hire your full-time person, you're not going to, you don't have plans to continue working this part-time person at all, right?
Unless there's an overlap. Not long-term, no. And Mr. Ransdale's also indicated that he does not want to be there long-term. So there might be some overlap for a period of time. The other person might not be able to come in right away. There may be some training and trying to fit them all in, but I don't envision it for
And
more than-
let's just say hypothetically, you don't find a full-time replacement until like April, so the first 3 months of the salary that we've already appropriated was left unspent, you would return that back to county general?
Well, I don't think it ever goes out of the county general.
Any unspent money stays in the county.
You're not gonna, you wouldn't try to transfer it out for something, well, that'd come before us, though, on line item.
I can't imagine using it for anything else. I mean,
Okay,
So I think the only thing before us this evening is creating this line item of the part-time deputy prosecutor, correct?
Right, there's two parts of this, and maybe Bob doesn't need the one part. I have it here, an amendment for the 2021 salary ordinance, amending to add the $30 part-time rate for the part-time deputy prosecutor, Title 4D prosecutor. And then also in the 2022 ordinance that's being presented to you tonight for adoption, it's also included in there. Now, to follow up with the PCA money, now, come after the first of the year, in addition to the council required to set the rate of pay, the council's also, it's also required that the council appropriate the money or budget the money in the PCA fund. So after the first of the year, you're going to see that on your agenda
Okay.
to appropriate money in the PCA fund to pay the part-time prosecutor.
So is it $30 an hour plus the FICA and all that on top of that?
Right. It'll be, yeah,
Yeah, we will be paying that.
yeah, the budget will be that, the FICA plus the $30, an estimate of what needs to be budgeted for the part-time.
And I have a question. I don't know if you already answered this, but like how many hours a week do you anticipate? What's part-time? Is it like literally 20 hours a week
Well,
or?
We know we can't go with, what, 29?
Right.
29 hours. It's not going to be more than that. And in talking to Lou today was all day, tomorrow's going to be all day. We get into later in December, I don't have conflicts, but tomorrow I have 15 hearings, maybe 16 with Judge Hanson on Zoom, and there's another 6 hearings that are exact same time with the magistrate, Terry Iacoli, and I can't be in 2 places at the
Right.
same time. So he's just going to be a warm body. He's going to take notes. I'll do the paperwork and the orders afterwards, but it was had to do something now. Now, next week, it's really light. And
Okay.
so in those weeks, I anticipated more training. But no, I don't see him a lot. It's going to fluctuate up and down.
Okay.
So if you are, then we do need the amendment for 2021 as well as
Right.
adopting it in the 2020.
So what's in our packet tonight is the 2021 salary ordinance amendment. So we're looking for appropriation number 11347, Title 4D, part-time deputy prosecutor at the rate of pay of $30 per hour. Do we
Waiting
need
on
a motion? Yeah, I'm waiting on a motion. Anyone want to make that motion?
Paula will make the motion
We can all
to
make
approve
motions, except me.
part-time deputy prosecutor at $30 an hour for the 2021 salary ordinance.
Out of what fund?
Whatever fund Dan lists.
Not the incentive,
Well,
I thought it was the
we may have to
PCA.
pay it out. It may pay it out. We can't pay it out of the PCA fund.
Okay.
Because we can't budget. We don't, the state will not approve any additional appropriations in the month of December. So that can't be done for this year. We're still taking a look at Brian's, what's going to be remaining after Brian's payout. If there's money remaining, we'll pay it out of the county general fund, Title 4D budget. If not, then it'll come out of the incentive fund.
Okay.
It's really, Dan's been great about helping, and we spent emails all last week going
Sure.
back and forth. And it's just been such a moving thing, and with Brian leaving, and it just,
Yeah.
I will second Kelly's motion. Vicki Kivett.
I haven't had a chance to get back with payroll to see where we're at with calculating Brian's payout.
We have a motion from Kelly Acala, a second from Vicki Kivett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have court staff salaries discussion. Judge Foley, are you presenting that? Okay. Good evening.
I'm here to address, it's not a big dollar difference, but it's a difference that makes a difference in our office and what we're trying to, our structure we're trying to keep with our employees. The problem came about, I think, when we moved and the council responded and granted our request, and we appreciate that, but what we did is we moved first and second deputy, did away with the distinction between the two, moved the second deputy up to the first deputy pay line. And what also had happened that I wasn't necessarily aware of, or probably should have been, but I think is an unintended consequence, what that left us with really was 2 salary positions by pay, not by necessarily title, but by pay within our offices, a court reporter, and then the bailiffs would be paid the same as the first, second deputy, now known as court administrator. And then when we realized that was the result, we reached out to Dan, or I reached out to Dan, and trying to see what's the solution to that problem. And what had happened is based on your salary survey, and that the bailiff salary was only increased by 3.5% for cost of living this year versus a 4% that brought that down. And I think it has to do with the designation on that job description for that salary survey, or to bring it in line there. But the way we function and what our office and what our duties are, the bailiff needs to be paid more than the first and second deputies. With the bailiff's duties, they have to be available during jury trials when the jury is deliberating. That may get over at 4:30 in the afternoon, that may get over at midnight. And when they need to be compensated for that additional potential call-out. And I was scheduled as of, well, it went down as of 4:30 this afternoon, but I was supposed to have a 2-day jury trial tomorrow. For example, my bailiff would have had to been available knowing that the jury would have deliberated on Wednesday throughout the evening. So if they go in at 4:30, they may not come out till 11. So that employee has to make adjustments, and we have to compensate for those adjustments they make in their personal lives of being available on those days. And I've had, that would have been my 11th jury trial since June. So that's not just an infrequent occurrence, it's a common occurrence. So we want to recognize that and also create within the office structures incentives. You need some hierarchy and some structure for some folks to aspire to, and to recognize if somebody wants promoted within, et cetera, then you've got to have a place to land them. And I think having a structure in an office helps with that, and allows folks to work harder, or maybe move up within the organization. If somebody leaves or somebody else does something else, then that creates that ability to do that. If everyone was equal and we're demanding different things out of those employees, well, then that's largely not reflecting those different job duties. So I don't know necessarily how to fix it, other than to...
That was my next question. Do you have a plan?
Well, I got a plan. I don't know if it's the right plan.
Let's hear your
Let's
plan.
hear your plan.
Would be to amend the salary schedule, and for the bailiff, it would be 2057, which is a 9-cent increase over where they are currently allocated at 2048.
Okay.
Now, that would make the difference. Now, I note in looking at the categories that the bailiff and the court administrators are both COMOT 3s, where the court reporter is a COMOT 4. I don't know what it means on that column to make the change, or what we need to do to make the change. The dollars and cents of it, for 9 cents, we have 4 bailiffs, 1 in each court. So combined, using, I think, the 1,950 hours for 2022, that's a $702 difference over the 2022 budget. But I understand the more technical part of it is the fix as far as reflecting the right categories. So we'll do what you guys need us to do to get to effectuate that, but that's kind of the request.
Did you bring this to HR to have them look at the job? I mean, everything's based off that job description and the WIS study, I'm assuming, which we're still using based on the categories. So was that presented to HR to review to see if it needs to be categorized different?
No.
Okay. So I think before us, we're making a big decision if we're going to veer off of the WIS study.
Do you?
But I didn't know that was the consequence
Sure.
of the other action, or I would have.
Sure.
I mean, this came about last week.
Do you think your employees' job descriptions are fairly accurate? As
I
far as
didn't
their
pull them in
duty?
advance of tonight to look at them, but I think so.
And how often do you think the jury situation presents itself, where there'd be staying past 4:30, et cetera?
Well, since June, it's happened 10 times in my court.
You've had 10 jury trials? Wow.
That went
And I was
into the
going to have
evening?
one tomorrow and the next day, and there was 16 behind it. It tells you where we are on working our COVID bubble. So this is going to be busy throughout at least probably 3/4 of next year. Now, I don't know that it'll necessarily be that same pace. I think it will trickle down a little bit. But at least through first and second quarter of next year, it's going to be fairly close to that.
And I agree, I think the move to kind of eliminate that first deputy, second deputy title and go to the court administrator position
And
title.
I think it was an
I think
unintended
that-
consequence of
exactly.
that wasn't on my
We had no
radar
idea
screen
this was gonna
is gonna
snowball this
create
direction.
basically two positions, court reporter by salary. I understand they're differently job description, but it would result in each of our offices having two different pay positions. And that's what, when we realized that, that's when we
Yeah.
asked to be put on the agenda.
Thoughts, questions of the council?
I would like to hear from Dury of her recommendations, if she has any.
In regards to the WIS study.
Right, to how we, like I said, if we're gonna veer off of the WIS study, then it's open market to veer off for every position, in my opinion. So, because we kind of had that discussion at budget time.
We did.
That we are gonna stick to the WIS study, we were adding the 4%, we were trying to keep everybody, and so if we're gonna do that, to me, even I know it's 9 cents, it sounds very minimal, but when you set a precedent, you set a precedent. So to me, that opens every department to come back and plead their case of why their employee deserves more. And I'm not saying,
I'm not, yeah, and
Yeah,
I,
I'm
and I
not-
think even since our budget session, which, as you may recall, I did bring up in the budget session that cost of living was at 5.7, I believe,
It's gonna be
percent at
even
that
worse every
time.
month,
I think it went to
yes.
6, now it's back 5.5. Anyway, we're gonna be near 6%.
absolutely.
And we've had folks that have not had, and I know that's not this situation, but we've had some that have not had a raise in 2
Right.
years now.
Yep, absolutely.
And we all know what meat's costing at the grocery store right now. So I want us all to take that into consideration when we're thinking through this. And I'd like to,
And while that's all true, all of those things are happening, we also have to keep in mind that our additional revenue is not coming up by that significant either. So as we continue to budget each year and we're spending up
understand.
more cash, we are gonna have an issue. And this is 9 cents, and I get that that's small, but each additional position that comes before us won't be just 9 cents.
go ahead, Dury.
Sorry.
That's okay. My thought is the data in the WIS study is 2 to 3 years old. And we have had COVID since then. And I know everybody likes to blame everything on COVID, but things have changed in the way that we do business. Would that be a true statement? The way your court does business has changed a little bit
It has changed.
with COVID.
Yeah, without a doubt, I think like I said, being available for the jury trials, at least in my individual part of the world, that position has had more demands on it in the last 6 months, significantly more demands on it. I understand the process and procedure and precedent, but I guess I wasn't as tuned into the idea of the study and how it affected things, knowing that that position, I think, is, basically, that person, those bailiff positions, I guess, for 2 years now, haven't had
Sure.
any lower than market. So basically, they're doing the same and more for less.
Right,
And
absolutely.
I guess I'll take culpability and responsibility for being an office holder and not attuned and aware to that, but it's also not clear when we fill out our budget and make our requests that those are all the consequences. And maybe it's on me.
Well, and it is different. I mean, we have gone to a different path when we took on the job study and the use of that. But I will point out that by the time the numbers, and I've said this before, by the time the numbers were gathered, the study was created, and then that study was presented to the county. Before it was put in place, I think we were 16 to 18 months with stale numbers. So I don't think the numbers we necessarily put in place were numbers of up-to-date numbers.
I think you're always going to do that.
You're
I guess
always
my-
gonna have
My
that.
point was,
Yeah.
I sat down with my positions in the budget and asked for 4% across the board. And so I guess that's my understanding. I said, okay. And then the other request was to move these others to the
Right,
same level.
not realizing that
So
there might be
they're
some
like
that were.
this, and then after the result of that request, then there's 3 of the 4 are leveled out. And that's where I was like, well, gee whiz, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
And so, again, to the extent I have culpability, I'm sorry. And that's how
We
I came
understand
to
that.
it, and that's
We
what
appreciate that.
That's what was the budget request, and that's the way it came
My problem with it lies that it's not only these employees that we're speaking of, but there's those other 6 that have also fell in this. And I think we were very steady across. We had our conversations and we were steady across the board that we paid for the WIS study. We've got 60,000 in the WIS study approximately. We're going to stay with it. And the figures that we had, although they were outdated, is what we had and what we could work off of. I don't agree with it. I don't like these people not getting raises, not 1 year, but 2 years and further. But to me, you got to do that WIS study.
At some point, I would like to, and I don't know who else agrees with me, but I would like to get to the point where the WIS study might be the baseline, and then for whoever is hired, if they have more experience or they have more training or more certifications or anything, then you could offer them a higher rate. That is one of the things that's going to make being a Morgan County employee attractive. I 100% understand what Judge Foley is saying. He needs to have 3 levels in his court staff. And right now, the way it ends up, we're not going to have that. Right.
4 courts, yeah.
All the courts,
You're just
yes.
the speaker for everybody.
Yeah.
So my recommendation would be, which I don't know how much weight that holds with everybody, but my recommendation is that we look at it in that light, that we want to be an attractive, and I honestly do not like people not getting a raise 2 years in a row, because why would you try? Why would you want to go to the next level if you know, well, I'm not going to get a raise for X amount of years? You know, I know that it's not going to be very long until 69 makes it a lot easier to get to other places, and it's going to be easier to drive 15, 20 minutes maybe to get that rate instead of somewhere where you're not being appreciated or don't feel
Right.
appreciated.
And we don't want to lose the good employees that we have.
Right.
Yes.
And I do understand that it's setting a precedent, but I don't know that that's a precedent that we don't want to set. I feel like that is a precedent that we do want to set, because we want to reward people for working as hard for us as they do. Because we have a lot of hardworking people in this
Sure.
county.
My only thing is, when we're making big salary changes like this, I mean, obviously, there's more salary discussions coming up on our agenda this evening. This is not, you're not the only one. The best time to do that is when we're have all of our budget forms in front of us, and we're looking at each fund and each budget, so we have an idea to wrap our heads around what we're really, the impact we're gonna have by increasing the salaries. So when we come back now, to me, it's a little harder, because I wanna be able to see.
How did I not do that if I have these positions and I ask for them, my bailiff to go up 4% and my court administrator, first, second deputy to go up 4%? So my request is exactly, budget is exactly what I'm asking for
Request,
today.
it's not about the request, is that once you requested it, 100%, you requested 4%, but we made the decision as a council that we were gonna do the midpoint plus 4%.
I
So
think
that's how that happened. That's not because you didn't do the
No,
right
wouldn't
request,
you?
the right
But
thing.
then, but it was told to me tonight, well, why didn't you get something else changed? And I thought, well, I didn't know I had to do that.
Well, and I think the issue on your end, and it's you didn't know the impact of what the WIS study, for those who did not get the raise the year before because they were already
At the midpoint.
beyond the midpoint.
Right.
I think your thinking was they are going to get it this year, the 4%. And I think a lot of us had that kind of same mindset. But in reality, some did not get the full
'Cause some were
4%
still-
because of they were already above the midpoint. So with the 4%, it took them, some only got like 3.5% instead of the full 4%. So you were thinking in the right, I mean, same mindset a lot of us had. I was guilty of it as well. But I mean.
Well, in the WIS study, and the other thing is that, I mean, for this year, the bailiffs didn't get an increase over
This year
2020.
being.
2021.
2021.
Correct.
Did not. And but your first deputy did. And the reason was that the WIS study has the bailiff and your first deputy position at the same level. Okay, so the bailiff was above the midpoint because of that. And then the council made the decision to give the 4% and would give the 4% on either the midpoint. Well, we took last year's midpoint, increased it 4%, and then compared it to different positions of what they were making. And then for the bailiff, well, that 4% increase in the midpoint put that above what the bailiff is making this year. So the bailiff was raised up to that amount. But then combined with that is the WIS study has the first deputy position at the same rating or at the same pay level. And so they.
See, that's what I didn't realize, because they weren't paid the same last year.
It's that.
No, you didn't see it, but the bailiff didn't get an increase. That's the thing that I think, and not you, but others.
It's a little,
didn't
it's somebody who
question,
has their head
should've-
down and trying to do their own job. It's a little bit confusing and not real clear.
But, and it's hindsight's 20/20.
Sure.
But the real question should have been for this year, why did the bailiff not get a raise? And then that's when we could have addressed that with you, that, well, your bailiff position and the first deputy position are at the same level. And then maybe the job descriptions need to be looked at closer to say, maybe they're not.
Could be different levels.
And it didn't dawn on me they are the same level, because this 2021, they weren't paid the same.
No, they weren't, but.
It's a catch-22.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
If the courts were to look at those job descriptions and we update those job descriptions, would you be willing to entertain looking at those again and seeing we could go through the job maintenance
Right.
committee and?
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the process.
That's
that
what I was
if
leading
they're
off
in
to.
if they're in the wrong category, they need to be looked at.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
that-
maybe they
that was
weren't,
my
in-
question
yeah,
because last
maybe some
year
of the duties
we-
were left off
Right.
of some positions that needed
Okay.
to be,
That's
maybe
why
there
I-
were some additional duties
Quite
that.
honestly, all three of those positions, now it's two, your court administrator, office administrator position, where you combine the first and second. All of those positions, job descriptions should be looked at and probably rewritten, because now it sounds like you're having those two, what were first and second deputies doing similar duties or sharing duties, whatever. Because now we actually, I'll bring this up now. You brought up the I don't know how you pronounce that, 3, and the bailiff and the what was first deputy are at the 3 level, but that second deputy position that you've asked the council to bring up to the same level as the first deputy, it's actually at a 2 in the WIS study.
So it got from a 2 to a 3.
Well, it hasn't changed at all because it hasn't been
Well,
pushed back to WIS. But the pay increase was made regardless.
Well, you're telling me under this budget that I've got 2 staff persons that are office administrators, the designation 3,
Right.
numeral 3.
Right.
I got none that are 2, so it may still be
Well,
on there as a job description, but it's not filled.
I mean, that was something I put in the ordinance, because those are the same, the courts asked for those 2 first and second deputy titles to be
So
eliminated. and
where would
combined.
we, if the court reporter is then a COMOT 4, and the bailiff is a COMOT 3, and the office administrators, I just intuitively, if I go north of 3, I get to 4, so then does the court reporter need to be a 5?
I don't know. I just think that, I think that you need to work with DeRee and work with WIS on getting, looking at the job descriptions and because now you've taken what were 2 separate jobs and combined them into one, And we really don't even have a job description for this court/office administrator.
Unless you're using the first deputy job description for both of them.
But does the second
But we don't-
deputy?
They do the same things. That was our whole
Okay.
What
So
we've
then
seen.
that job description needs to reflect
Yeah.
that their duties
All of
are
them
now the
need to be
same.
reevaluated, I would say.
So why then on the magistrate and Superior Court 2, that court administrator is a level 2, but then on Superior Court 1, Circuit Court, Superior Court 3, they're level 3?
Yeah, don't
Is that just
try to
a
make
fluke?
sense out of that, because none of that's went to WIS. I mean,
No.
it's really,
So it just needs cleaned up, it
it
sounds.
does,
Yeah.
it does need cleaned up.
That's why,
And verified if it's the same between each court, the same responsibilities for each court administrator between each court. And if it's not,
Ordinance can be, a job salary pay can be changed at any time.
yes.
So this isn't, just because we send it in, it stays that way for the full year. We can come back and change that.
Right.
So
Right, but I want to,
Sure.
we want it fixed.
I
That's
want my employees to
Be
be
happy.
paid what I think
Yep.
they deserve.
why I'm saying maybe we,
We still have, we have another meeting this year.
At the risk of being shot, well, no, you've said they do the same thing.
I won't shoot you, Dan. I can't say anything about anybody else.
Since we do not have updated job description or anything, do we just go back to where we were and then do job descriptions, then go to WIST and start all over? Or, but
Let
you
me
say
throw
they do the
something
same.
out here. You know, looking at things from this point of view, seems extraordinarily complicated. And there's reason for that. But when we have our pre-budget meeting and we say we want to bring these folks up, I guess I'm struggling with us running through all these filters and saying, oh, that means this, that means this. That's what we're looking for as office holders, is help in that process to get all the ducks in a row that need to be done. I'm willing to do all those. I'm going to come back to how many ever meetings you want me to do. But it just seems maybe there's a little bit of that got buried and
wasn't communicated.
wasn't communicated, and it certainly wasn't on
It's okay
my
to say it.
radar screen that this was all going to need to be done in this way.
I think that, we each have assigned departments that meet with all of the departments each year, and I think that that's even a conversation that couldn't have really happened there, because we don't know at the time that we meet with that department what the decision is going to be of the council when we set salaries. Does that make sense? So we might say, okay, you requested 4%, I've got that noted, we know that you want 4%. But we don't know until we have a discussion amongst us
If we're
that we
gonna
said,
go with
okay, we're going
4%.
to, we could have said, no, we're not going to stick with the WIS study, we're going to go do whatever we want, we're going to do 10%. Like, we don't know at that point in
Well,
time.
then that's why I'm
Right.
here late.
And so I guess I guess the time for you to find that out is when we're in our budget workshop and we're having the salary discussion. And if you're worried about salaries, you're not getting exactly what you requested, come to our council meeting for the budget workshop when we're discussing salaries. Does that make sense? That's when we discuss it. That's when we made this decision.
A little bit on 700 and whatever dollars,
Sure.
no.
Okay.
I mean, it's
But
just,
that's how you didn't know, though. That's what I'm saying.
saying.
That's how you didn't know, because you weren't at that meeting. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that everybody has to come, but I guess that's when we discuss it.
I think what you need to do, Pete, is go back and pull out those job descriptions, rewrite them, make sure every detail that person performs is included in that. Let's resubmit them. Let's get our committee together.
And you may find that it's
review it.
greater than what's here
Yeah.
now.
That's why I started out asking, do you think that your job descriptions are adequate
It may
to
be a
the
lot
people
more.
that are holding? They might come out ahead, you know.
Day
Well, how's
operations.
that- I guess, how does that happen?
How does,
If I touch up my job description, everybody gets a raise?
in your department, potentially. Potentially.
All right.
I want to make sure I understand too, because I wasn't here during all of the budget meetings in August. So when you went through the budgets, did every position description get reviewed? Like, how, is it incumbent upon the department head to review the descriptions? And, because it's got to fit, right?
They sign off on it.
Okay, so that's where part of the problem is in the accuracy of the description of the job, and then maybe two jobs becoming one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, when we made the two jobs one, did we send that to Westery? No. So that's part of it. That's really a big part of that, is once we combined two positions, we didn't send it to West to be reevaluated to see where it should fall. And I guess that is on.
Yeah, no, that's
When
it.
we do that, when we made that vote to combine those positions, that should have given us, at that point in that meeting, to give direction to Doree to say, hey, we're combining these, please send this off again to WIS and pay the money to get it reviewed.
It can all be fixed.
Right? Is that right, Dan? I mean,
That's where it happened, and here again,
So
I'm
that's
gonna
an
get
oversight
shot, but I think the
between that
council more
situation.
maybe too easily took what the recommendation from the court was to combine the two positions.
Instead of getting it
and-
reviewed
Rather
first.
than going through the normal procedures of, okay, if we're gonna combine those, we gotta come up with job description that describes those jobs, or that job. And
That
we-
lane.
And we need to go to WIS with
And
this.
that's what I'm talking about, yeah, because I don't think and I'm not,
We should have forced that review process first before it came here.
Then the other policy was, with raises, was that the policy would be the lesser of 4% of the 2021 pay, or the WIS midpoint 4%. And so in this case with the bailiff, the lesser amount was the 4% of the WIS midpoint.
Sure.
And that's how the bailiff ended up with a 3.5%. And I think we all, not that I'm on the council, but it was a point when, while the council's been very stringent with going through the WIS procedures, this is one time that kind of got, went off course.
It went off course a little bit,
Right.
yes, I do
And,
agree. So I think the answer, if I'm hearing this correctly, is that we do need to send the job description back to the committee for review. Have your folks write down their duties and what those are, and maybe compare it to what they have down so far and adjust those duties. If there's things they left off, they need to put them on there. And then let that go before the committee, and we can then revisit this and adjust that. But I don't think it'll be an issue.
okay.
And I know
All right,
it's
well,
a
I'll
little
work with Doree.
legwork.
We'll get you new job descriptions on bailiff
And your
the
administrative
administrative
positions.
positions. 'cause
Yeah, I
Those
think
are,
everything out, the court
Court
reporter's
reporter,
fine. Court reporter's fine.
well, what if I redo it and she gets a raise?
It could happen.
It could.
It could happen.
And I would say that it needs to go for each court.
if it
So
goes
if it's-
probably.
If there's different responsibilities for each court, we need to set
Yes.
that as a,
Can you tell me what the variables
Distinction.
are so I know how to write it?
All the judges need to do this.
And all the judges, yeah, not just you.
Well, we need them all the same.
No, you may not,
They may not be the
they all
same.
operate the same
Exactly
completely, no
the
matter
same.
what. Everybody does the same, just
No.
in each
buy
court.
your own coffee for the jurors, or does one person do that? I don't know.
Well,
Do
we
you all
want
live-
equity within our offices for those same positions, whether they're in circuit court or they're in Superior One.
But I don't think that, I think if you talk to your judge's staff, I don't think the duties are necessarily all the same. I
May
really
not be.
don't. I mean,
They should be.
In general, they are. I mean, it depends on how close you want. I
Well,
mean,
then send it in a general
I mean,
job
I'm
description.
just telling you, if you ask the four of us
I
to do
know.
four different, and I don't know what the whiz,
Sure.
the whiz, is it W-I-Z?
WIS.
W-I-Z? I like whiz better. Anyway, the wizard will tell us. Because if Hanson writes one and it's different than mine,
You're exactly right.
and they come out and they're different, and we know that the thing he added is really a non-substantive, or the thing I left off is immaterial in some sense, but Wiz thinks it is, then.
A
I don't-
person might
it's-
bump up.
Well, I know, but I don't know that that's what we want as a policy for our staff.
Guys, you all need to coordinate that before it goes to WIS.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, sir.
About 400 employees in this, didn't
All
we,
right.
Dan?
Yeah.
Doree?
That was court staff discussions.
What did we do, table on this, or?
Yeah, he's gonna, so we're gonna table this until the judges
You can't table this, because this salary ordinance has to be passed.
We could,
Leave it as is and then change it.
Right, that WIS process will take several weeks.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
this has to be done.
So
before
we
the
need
end
a
of the year.
motion this evening. No, we have I know, we have a contract with them that they do this on occasion. Correct? Okay.
Are we
So-
approving the salary ordinance altogether at one at the end for 2022? Or you need a separate motion just for this, for it to stay
I
the
think we
same?
take these one at a time. Don't we take these issues one at a time on what we're doing with these? And then come back and,
Well, if you're gonna leave it as is, as it was adopted or.
Well, that's what I'm looking-
At the budget time, it's in this ordinance.
it's in there, yeah.
So when you pass that, when you do
Passes
a
and
motion to
stays.
pass that ordinance, it's
Yeah,
done.
so there's nothing else we need to do on this one right now, okay.
Yeah, the only thing, if any of these.
If we deviate from
If
it.
you deviate that.
Yes,
when you need
I
separate
understand.
motion.
Okay, next up is the EMS Director's salary increase discussion, and I think our HR Director wanted to bring this before us.
I want to make sure everybody knows that this was not requested by the EMS director. It was me
Would you
looking
take
at
the
it.
mic down?
He does not even know that I'm here asking for this. What I would like is respectfully to have all of the people that are in that category in the WIS study to be making the same rate, with nobody's salary frozen. And so I am requesting that he be raised to 66,388, which would be the same as the EMA director, E911 director, and the HR director, which is in the same
Which is that
category.
4%.
It's just
Okay.
the 4% from last year.
So why wasn't this brought at budget time? I guess that's always going to be my question.
It was.
It was brought up at budget
We
time,
froze it because of,
discussed.
Okay, from the
Yeah.
freeze.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
it's from the freeze.
So it does fall to get the 4% on top of the WIS, correct, Dan?
Yes.
Just like the other positions, yeah.
I have no
That's an
issue with
easier
that.
decision for me. That's
Much easier decision, yes, because we froze it before. I have no issue with that.
Yeah. So is that your motion?
I'd make a motion.
I'll second Chip Keller.
So we have a motion and a second to increase to the 4%, correct?
Correct.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Doree. Then we have the Highway Department up next. Doree, are you staying here with him to guide us through this one? Okay. This is Grant Collinsworth, our Highway Superintendent.
Yes, which I think most of us have met, maybe not the general public all yet.
Right, so I wanted everybody to know who you were.
Again, for those of you that did come out, and shame on you, the ones that didn't come out.
Oh, you missed it.
I'm on the naughty list.
Yeah, didn't we? I
So
think
wait,
we.
he's waiting on a ride in the snow plow is
Yeah.
what he's waiting on.
Grant was kind enough to invite all the council out to tour the highway facility and get an idea of how things are out there. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and present what you've got for us this evening.
Go ahead.
What we have are 3 crew bosses that are doing the exact same work. And for some reason, when the WIS study was done, they only caught one of them and gave that person a higher rate. So we're asking to have all 3 crew bosses who are doing the exact same work at the same rate, the higher rate. The 2 that didn't get caught were just paid at the truck driver rate last year. The only difference in pay would have been that they have a take-home vehicle. So we have a take-home vehicle at the highway, and this morning the commissioners approved for the person that did not have the take-home vehicle but the higher pay, it was approved for them to get the take-home vehicle as well. That doesn't mean purchasing a new vehicle, it's one that we have that we're already using. So all 3 of these crew bosses are on call, and if we have bad weather, we have a tree down, ice storm, anything like that that causes them to come out and do extra work, they're the first ones that are called by Grant to go out, and so that would necessitate the third vehicle for the third crew boss.
Okay.
So that's one part of it, so I'm asking.
Yeah, let's take them
Okay,
apart at a time.
Sure.
Let me ask you one thing first. That job description for those, all three crew bosses are identical, correct? There's only one job description?
One job description,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Was that just an oversight?
It was an oversight, yes.
But from the beginning, the job descriptions have all been the same,
Correct, the job descriptions for those
other
have not
than the
changed.
take-home vehicle
And
situation.
as you guys all know, I came in a little, I mean, I'm only, what, 4 or 5 months into this, so I'm still going through these job descriptions of the WISC, and so I understand everybody's frustration.
Sure,
Okay,
we're
I
all
mean, but
learning.
we've gotta just get them cleaned up.
Yes.
Dree has been a blessing to me in being able to, work with to be able to get this done. And we have already sent some to WISC, so.
Right.
We are taking that step.
I have another question. We're talking about take-home vehicles and WIS studies in comparison to other counties. When we turn in a WIS study and they are provided a take-home vehicle, is that included in that job description that they're provided that? Whereas in Morgan County, they might, but in Grant County, they might not, to establish that salary?
I honestly don't know if it's included in the job description or not.
I'll be honest, I mean, I've been reading these things, and I can't say that I've seen the physical verbiage in there that says this job description has a take-home vehicle.
I would be surprised if it did.
I'd be interested to know that in the future.
But for those individuals at the highway department, is that on the salary ordinance? Because it's considered a benefit of the job? Dan, I'm asking you.
Take-home vehicle, is it on the salary ordinance as a benefit of the job?
No, it's not in the salary.
It's not for other departments either, though, right?
Not for any. They're charged the IRS rate for having that.
Okay.
So we're just asking that they be equalized across the board for the three are the same. They're all three at the higher rate, and they all three will have a take-home vehicle because they all three perform the same job.
Okay.
How's this different than Judge Foley's situation? Or,
It's not.
okay.
I mean,
Well,
Well, it kind of, let me, if
yeah,
you
it
don't
is
mind.
different.
it
There are
is a
job
little bit
descriptions.
because I have 3 people.
It's already correct.
well, that's true. Those are
The
the
job
same
descriptions are different,
positions where
yeah.
those weren't,
These
yeah.
are the exact same positions. I mean, that they are identical.
Doing the same job.
I mean, these
Right.
guys are on call 24/7, just like me. I take the dispatch call, and then per the district, whoever's in that district, I call them. And I mean, this guy's having to take his personal vehicle back, unlock the gate, get his tools on his truck. I mean, we're just delaying, the response time.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing. And so the commissioners were kind enough to be able to give him that vehicle. But as far as, these guys not making the same, there's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be. I mean, they're all performing, they all oversee a crew. It's just,
So we're
I'm
talking,
not here to say or, judge or whatever, but I'm just not so sure that the WIS study wasn't maybe taken as seriously as it should have been out at the highway.
Their classification is higher than what their pay level is. They're getting paid at the level of truck driver, equipment operator, which is a classification of the LTC 3, and their classification is LTC 4. So that is a difference. There is a difference, but
So they're not classified correctly, is that what you're saying?
no, they're
Okay.
not paid consistent with.
They're not paid
classification.
consistently.
Consistent to the classification.
there's your answer.
Okay.
You had 4 out there, superintendent at the
Mm-hmm.
time, working with JJ coming up with a job description for crew boss. You also had Dan Knopfler, before he retired, did his own job description for crew boss. He was a crew boss then. Dan always did, and Tim Barnett, before he retired, they did a lot of the mechanic work on the grader. They got them going, they didn't wait for the mechanics to come out. The other 2 didn't do it as much, so whenever they put it in, they do some, but they wouldn't take off parts and go make up new hoses come out. They would actually tell them what they needed
So I think now
communities
there's.
need.
So are the job descriptions different with WIS, with these jobs right now? The job description was the same.
No, it's the same as what we got 2 years ago. We have
So
sent
how
some.
did they get in different classifications if they were exactly the same? That's what I'm having.
We should
that's
ask
what- that's what I'm
someone
a little-
who's no longer employed here that question.
Yeah, I think it
Like
was,
I
there were
said,
some
I think
issues.
the comment I made earlier, and
Yeah.
again, this isn't me bashing or belittling anybody.
No.
But it wasn't taken seriously out there, all right? I mean, and the effects of it are tremendous. I mean.
I want to get
again,
my head around.
The description is the same, the job duties are the same, and you have one guy that's making more than the other two. And that's really.
So
what it
you're
boils
wanting
down
all
to.
three of those positions at the 2494 rate? Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Because you had also brought to our attention that there was a crew boss superintendent or supervisor that you wanted an increase on that one. Is that off the
Correct.
table now?
No,
That is not, that is
Okay.
on the table.
you said one at a time.
Okay, all right, I'm just making
So-
sure.
So we have four people we're talking about,
We have
eventually four. Three with the crew
two
boss.
with the crew boss, because
with
the
the crew-
one, there's no change on the salary ordinance.
Since he's already making it.
He's already making the
And now
amount.
I've already got his
But
truck.
we're
approved.
talking, no, I don't care about who was on or not on.
Okay.
I want to know the total number.
So you have
Total
two
number of crew
funds.
bosses.
You have highway and bridge fund, and then you have cumulative. So there's already a crew boss
Okay,
in the
they're already in
cumulative.
those, right.
Yes.
Paying them out of two different.
So two in the highway fund
I
and one
just-
in the cum fund.
I just added them in the highway fund in my example, but I didn't know where they really went. I assumed that's where you would put them, but I didn't know.
Well, you got one crew boss for the bridge crew,
Correct.
or is that the crew boss supervisor?
No.
Okay, so you got the
No.
one position in the cum bridge, and then we have two in the highway fund for a total of three.
Correct.
Okay.
For
Okay,
crew
so
bosses,
two,
yes.
so a total of three as crew bosses at 2494. Correct. Okay, just to make them all the same. So that's what's before us at this moment.
And one is already at that amount.
And just to clarify, we don't want to get so far in the weeds that we're changing job descriptions. This is more just a salary ordinance that
And is
we're-
this just for, is this addressing it for 21, right? Immediate effective now?
No,
You're
for
trying to not
22.
adjust it till 22?
Yeah, this is a 22, just clarify. So I think what we have before us, and we'll kind of take these piece by piece, but what we have right now is cleaning up the fact that we have three positions that were not all paid at the same rate of pay, but doing the same job. So we want to have a motion, or I look for a motion to have all three of those positions at a rate of $24.94 per hour in the 2022 ordinance.
I would make that motion. It's already in there, isn't it, Dan, in the paperwork I'm looking at?
No, I think we have to make an adjustment, don't we?
Well, no, I don't have the number of positions in there, Chip.
What?
Bit of an adjustment.
So there will be a change there. I do have the position titles.
Right.
The one for the crew boss supervisor, and then there's crew boss position title two, and then there'll be two positions in the highway fund, or the highway, in the lit fund for the highway, and then one in this cum bridge at $24.94. I know that was clear as mud.
No, I think we've got it. So we have a motion on the floor of
So they're gonna be three of them.
putting those rates at $24.94 for those three positions. Is that correct, Chip?
That's different.
Yes, I would make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Is there any
In
questions?
favors signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0 on the 2494 crew boss. Okay. Now on to your part two.
Thank you. We have a crew boss supervisor that was also at that $24.94 rate, who supervises the three crew bosses. So what I did, and it was an example, just trying to figure out what rate of pay he should be at. I took dispatch, sheriff, jail, and EMS, and used what their supervisor does to see what the percentage was above the first year rate for those people. And those were like 14, 22, 25, and maybe 27. Sorry, my thing printed out really small, I can't see it. But anyway, it's on,
And I didn't
yeah.
bring my glasses.
It's on the email. So what I did was I took an 11% difference. So I just went below all of those, just to kind of give an idea. I'll leave it up.
So do we have a job description for that position?
Yes,
And is a supervisor position?
yes.
So what's the issue if it's already there?
The
It's just, is
issue-
they making the same amount?
The issue is they were making
So
the same
then
amount.
it needs to go back to WIS to classify if it should be more. I don't see how we can set the salary. If it's already been classified, then it fits where it fits. Now, I get what you're saying, the supervisor needs to make more money. But we need a recommendation from WIS on what that should be if you're gonna have supervisors.
What additional he does.
Right.
In that duty to warrant a separation of pay.
Right.
Okay.
But correct me, WISC already has that
We already have that.
description, but
Had-
it would
And
really
that's where
still
they
come
put 'em.
back to you guys to,
So I think what I'm hearing is that we should look at that description because I would guarantee that it has changed in the last 2 years. So we can look and send that in.
Because right now it's got him with those crew bosses, right? In the same classification?
Which he has a take-home vehicle also, but he supervises the 3,
Right.
so it,
So if you
I
have
feel it's a
supervisory,
little-
it'll be a different, I
Yeah,
mean, they will
it'll be
probably
a-
raise the
It'll be an
classification.
increase. It should be. I mean, that's pay compression if you get into.
it is very much. pay
Yeah,
compression.
that's
Right.
pay, so you're getting into,
but I guess, I understand exactly where you're at, but I mean, the study of WISC has been done
well, but,
with the other departments.
Right.
And the job description with WISC is there, so.
But if the job description was poorly done,
Right.
not done completely to the measure that it needs to be done, WIS would take a new job description and reevaluate it and possibly give us a recommendation on what that pay should be for a supervisor.
Maybe duties
So
got left out.
So you're looking at the how we came up with it as looking at the other departments as ill and void, you can't.
Just make sure all the duties are included.
Do you feel like
or-
And I don't like to care,
this one that
you can't compare departments. Different departments have different type of responsibilities and type
Right.
of jobs, and this
It
one
was
may
an
be more.
example.
It was an
Sure.
example, it's a way to look
Yeah.
at it. I'm not saying that it might be more than 10%. We don't, I just feel like,
it warrants a look.
yes.
So I have a,
Go ahead.
sorry, I have a quick question because I'm looking at the salary ordinance and for crew boss supervisor, it shows that that person is making like $3 an hour more.
That's just me putting that in
Oh,
there.
okay, so that wasn't the part of the approved.
On it. That was if we did vote on it.
2494 is what the council.
That's the point here.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
So am I hearing that we want to table this, the study, it will be the 2494 for right now, and then have it looked at
Go
on that
through the-
study, and then we could come back in a next meeting or first of the year.
Or
and-
until
and-
WIS can get it
Yeah.
relooked
Yeah.
at. It may
Take
not
them
be the next
6 or 8
meeting, it may
weeks.
be,
You guys
unfortunately,
will be fine with looking at that when we can get that to you?
as soon as you can
Definitely.
get it
Okay.
done, yep.
Yeah, can we go retro on it if we decide to do it, or is that ongoing forward?
Oh, you can do that.
What we could also do, Grant, Vicki brought up a good point,
I don't know
is,
if I want to go down that road, but
Well,
that's just me.
if we get it within the first month of the year, you know, if we look at that in a timely manner, that might be something we look at that make retroactive too, back
Right.
to the
Okay,
first of the year.
we'll ask that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
And I guess I don't care if we touch on that.
I would say that we could do that for,
and then you had a third part, I understand as well.
And this is in regards, it's kind of the same principle that we were talking about with the crew boss. We have two ladies in the front office that are sharing the responsibilities of each other's roles. I mean, for the amount of time that they get off and, sick days and things of that nature. I mean, we couldn't ever just go to one. And and they're both making different money and doing the same responsibilities. You know, whether it be phones to, you know, timekeeping to billing. I mean, and, again, they're making different money.
Has
If-
one been there longer? Like, if one's been there
No,
25 years and one's
no.
been there 8 years?
No.
No.
They both hired in on the exact same day.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
Shucks.
Yeah.
If one was out for surgery and the other one had to take over, could they do 100% of all
Correct,
duties,
yes.
payroll?
Yeah, they communicate well within the office, and that is one thing that I continue to express to them is, you know, we need to be able to do each other's job. We need to know where we're at.
So do they have different job descriptions then, and different pay scales?
Yes.
Then that, they have different classifications, it needs to go back to WIS. If you think that they're doing the exact same job completely, to me, it needs to go back to WIS to determine what scale it should be. Maybe it should be the lower one, maybe it should be the higher one, I don't know.
Right.
But we can't make that determination, I don't think.
And the WIS is fluid.
Yes.
We're using that all the time, and as duties change and job descriptions change, we have to update that. You know that, I mean, you're aware of that. So I think that's one that also has to,
Go back.
Grant is working on a restructure of the entire highway department.
Correct.
And so these were just some things that were like glaring at us, and we thought that we, you know, can ask.
Yes.
yeah, we appreciate it.
No,
We're-
and she's done a fabulous job.
She does do a fabulous job.
Explaining everything to me, because I'll be honest, this is confusing, this WISC. I mean.
It has been for all of
It's
us.
a definite learning curve for me, you know what I mean? But I guess also, you know, as I stand here, you know, the WISC, it also doesn't have that performance-based pay.
No.
You know what I mean?
Nowhere in the county has
And-
that.
And it also, I thought we were using it as a baseline to where then you guys could make these decisions that I'm bringing up to you. And we're not doing that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is the adoption of the 2022 salary. I'm sorry, other business was later, but I know this needs to be addressed first. The commissioners did bring us, did everybody get a copy of this paper? And everybody got a copy? I think Don is going to present
Well,
something
I'm
in
just
addition to-
representing the other two gentlemen. And I'm not going to use the word except once, job description. That's the last time you're going to hear it from me for this evening. What I am going to tell you briefly is that we've got a lot more experience in council sitting behind me, and this is something that we've all have an interest in. The lady just left that I wanted to start with because I don't care what her job description is. When you get the tops in the state, you excel. And the only problem you have is that that lady didn't get a raise. And I know Vicki said something about the fact that, you all know what I'm talking about with the commission, the Indiana Association giving this young lady here the Administrative Assistant of the Year, which is quite, I want to give one brief quote, and I'm going to sit down and just listen to, Kenny's got some facts and some things to tell you, but I want to tell you a real brief story, or not a story. It's my favorite character, Abe Martin. Do you all read anything from Abe Martin? Actually, it was Ken Hubbard, a fellow from Ohio who decided to live in Indiana, and he made Ken Hubbard sort of a special character. But I love his pithy stuff that he says. And one of the things he said was, when somebody says it's not the money, it's the principle, well, it's really the money. Well, in this case, it's both. But mostly it's about the principle of why you give a raise, and that's simply to appreciate. And I know Vicki has said that she didn't like it, and I know why she didn't like it. And that doesn't mean she can't do something about it. When you show appreciation for somebody, it doesn't have to be the same as, it just has to be appreciation somewhere along the line, maybe a little money. but it doesn't have to be a lot, but it has to be something. And that's kind of where I'm going. I think that's what Kenny's going to explain to you. And you keep Abe in mind, and Kenny's got some good information to share with you.
Thank you, Don.
Kind words. Like Don was saying, there's a little bit of experience on the council here. Serving 16 years, Mr. Collier's got me beat. We come in 99 together. I got off a little earlier, but he's got 21 years on this board. So we feel your pain. We know where you're coming from. I really do believe in the WIS study. I'm not saying it might not be outdated. I do think the WIS study, that mid-range, that is the floor. The ceiling's up here. That's the way I look at it. I tried to put this together so you guys could see real easy how it's going to impact. But I feel like we got some of the best employees, best office holders in the state. I do AIC quite a bit. I do the commissioners, used to do the council, and NASM all the time, and I've been around a lot of employees and department heads. We got some of the best right here in Morgan County. I'm very proud of them. I know people's gonna say, oh, why are you doing this for elected office holders? We've got the best assessor. We've got the best auditor. We got the best county administrator, chief deputy auditor. I mean, executive assistant, your computer administrator, our health officer, none of them are getting raises this year. You're gonna see if you go over to the next to the last column, that's a 1% raise only. Total among all 11, and you do have the 3 asterisks at the bottom, them people are getting 17-cent raises, is what it figured out to for this year. The 8 above that is 0 raise. It is a morale buster, I believe, whenever you don't give raises. Sitting on the council, me and Mr. Collier, we had to do that a couple of years. We was gonna lay off 19 employees back in 2003. We worked with the department heads, we got it down where we all had to terminate 11. We did bring 3 of them back over the years, but it's tough. Your job is very tough, and I feel for you, especially at budget time. But being commissioners, that is part of our job, and that is fighting for the employees. So you're gonna see for a grand total, $4,915.12, you'd be giving them a 1% raise. Is that above the mid-range? Yes, absolutely, I know that, but we still gotta fight for the employees. You're gonna look at last column, you're looking at a total of $11,702.24 in the scope of the budget. That's not much. I know it'd be a lot for these people, just a big thank you, gratitude, if nothing else, but I mean, they deserve it. I know that it's tough in your seat. I do know that. But I just really want you to think about what it is. It is the floor, the way me and Ryan always looked at that. That mid-range is the floor. The ceiling's up here. It's your guys' latitude, what you do. As far as really having some of the best, I truly believe that. I was looking in the 2020 AIC book. You look, I mean, we've got some positions, comparable counties, and I'm gonna use one example because I run out of time, but our surveyor, I mean, if you look in comparable city or counties, Boone County, Hancock County, I mean, Terry's making quite a bit less than both of them gentlemen. And I mean, they're comparable in population. I mean, Hancock County's got 79,000, a little over us, and then you've got population in Boone at 67,195, a little under us. But I mean, it's not the size population, it's not the county, but it's the employee that we have. We're trying to be a premier employee. We've been trying that since 19, and we do want to be one of the premier employees in Morgan County. But it's really hard to attract or retain good employees if we're not getting them raises. And we're just asking for a little bit, 1%, 2%. I prefer 2 for them, but I understand where you're at. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Be more than glad to answer any questions you have on this Excel sheet.
Appreciate your work on it, you did.
This
She's
fine
putting it
little lady over here, I just kind of was a little busy today, and I said, Dad, do this for me, please. You can almost, you can literally be sitting there at your desk thinking about it. This little lady has it right there printed off in front of you. I mean, she's phenomenal. She's got that ESPN going, and the wife says, ESPN, yes, X-ray perception station network. She's got it going. She's a mind reader. But I appreciate her, and I appreciate the department heads and the other employees. Dan's got a deputy that's just, Joyce loves me, I know, but she gives me fits at times, but she's one of the best in the state. Thank you, guys.
Kenny, isn't it fair to say every title on this sheet has been affected by the building of I-69, probably a lot of increase in their workload?
Oh, absolutely, especially Terry. Absolutely. But I mean, you're gonna have a lot of them. I mean, Julie is on the assessed value. I mean, look at all the homes,
Yeah.
homes changed there. I mean, a lot of them. Yeah, it's,
I'll be honest, I've really struggled with this in the last couple weeks.
I have a question, Dan. Is this the only positions that would be getting, are coming close to the 1%? Does that make sense? Like if we were anticipating a 1%, do we have other people that were already over the midpoint? Then we added the 4%, and then that maybe got them a 0.5% raise. Do you see what I'm saying? Do we have other people that this might affect that we might have to, if we're gonna do that for these people, I wanna know how many other people that might fall into that category.
Didn't get the full 4%?
Yeah,
But yet got some raise.
but got something, but didn't get the 4.
I'm sure there is, but I don't recall.
You know, is there somebody else
But they
that
did
only
get-
got
Well, we know the
0.75?
bailiff- We
Right.
know the bailiff is one of those.
Right.
5.
Right. Maybe they got 3.5, maybe they got 2, maybe they got a half.
Right.
There could be, that's what I'm saying.
So,
and I don't wanna blame Corona. I don't wanna blame I-69. I mean, yeah, we're in unprecedented times with the virus, there's no doubt about it, but I mean, the inflation, everything has went up tremendously. I mean, just try to build something, try to buy groceries. I mean, it's
groceries
just
alone.
astronomical
Feed your
what
family.
it's doing. And we're just asking a small token, trying to help them out. Kelly, I appreciate you asking if there's more, because there probably is.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, if
Yeah, I don't
we
doubt
get behind this, I don't want to
Yes.
say, okay, we did this one, then next meeting, we
Yeah.
have 5 other people that come and say, I only got a 0.5% raise. If we're gonna do this as a
Yes.
token and bring everybody up to at least a 1%,
Yeah.
then it needs to be everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point is we're trying to avoid picking favorites and
Right.
winners
Oh,
and
yes.
losers, and
Yeah.
I don't
that's the whole
think,
point of the
Dan's,
Ordinance.
Dan's looking right here now, but I don't think we had others
And there
that
may
were,
not be, but I
that were
was just-
below the 1%.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So if
we
we're looking
really-
at the 1 to 2%,
Right.
you're not gonna have those that are gonna fall
Less
outside
than
of that at the
And that's what
lesser
I,
amount.
that's what my question was.
Dan
And
will
working
confirm
with
that
Deb
for us,
and
but-
Dree, I think that we pretty much encompass everybody, and that's why you got them bottom 3 on there, only getting 17, we included them. But we definitely could have messed up and missed somebody too.
Well, and I don't want to dismiss this job study. I mean, we did put a lot of money into it, but I have said from the beginning that I think those numbers, by the time they were put in place, were a bit stale. And then, given the world in which we live, where we're at nearly 6% cost of living increase, that it's hard to feed your families right now. And so we have great employees, and we've been a frugal county, that we are in a good position financially. And I mean, I know, Kelly, we don't want to get beyond spending beyond our means. I understand that. But I had brought up at budget time this, and we have, like you said, we've stuck stern to the budget study. But as has been mentioned tonight several times, that was just the base. And we, as elected officials and stewards of this money, can go above that base if we so choose. But,
And I
so
think, as far as us commissioners, I think we're still really trying to be fiscally responsible.
And we are.
That's
I
why
believe
we're
we
only
are.
asking 1 or 2, we're not asking 4, we're not asking 10, we're only asking the minimum.
exactly.
So,
You're
I
asking
mean,
for
I
a
think we
token of
really are, so-
appreciation. Do we have discussion of this? Do we have questions, thoughts? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Go ahead, Melissa.
So outside of being a county employee, I have a friend going through the same thing. And, you know, she is a single mom, and she hasn't gotten a raise in 2 years. And she broke it down, she's very good with numbers, and so she's actually making less money, if you think about it. Because grocery prices are high, because her gas bill is higher, et cetera. And so, you know, just on the side of compassion and for fear of losing good employees, I think several people have mentioned that tonight. You know, I just want us all to consider that. And I know that we have to be fiscally smart and good with our money, right? That's the whole point of us sitting up here. But I also know that when you haven't gotten a raise in 2 years, you have less money in the bank because everything else costs so much more. So,
And it's tough when you watch those that work around you, they've all got money. They all got an increase of some sort.
Yeah, it's definitely a morale buster, there's no doubt about that.
The only thing I question is, you know, there's some elected officials in this list, and I remember at budget time, Dan had printed off a report that gave us some averages of mainly central Indiana elected officials, and I don't recall anyone being that out of whack, but I mean, I don't remember what those numbers were off the top of my head anyway, but, I mean, elected officials, I just view a little differently, but, I mean, I don't.
Well, the elected officials didn't get a raise because of that we were already over that average of the counties that WIS was using in their comparison.
So,
My problem is with the counties WIS is using in the comparison. I don't know that, I mean, you know, Owen County, come on.
You can't compare to Owen.
My
No.
workload is much more. There's some, I mean, really, seriously, there's some counties that are not very large.
Right.
That we're being compared to. Another thing with the assessor, something that I don't think WIS, and actually the assessor tried to bring it to WIS's attention, and quite honestly, WIS was kind of nasty with her, is the fact that our county assessor's office is one of the very few in the state
Yes.
that does all of the reassessing in-house.
In-house.
We don't
Done 'em for years.
contract out with anyone other than we contract out to get the aerials. But that's it. I mean, and that's huge. I
Right.
mean, our county
when you
is
take that
saving
into
a lot of
consideration,
money
yes.
from the fact that we're not contracting out. And she has two positions in her office that she was asking to be reclassified and looked at a second time, because they're the data analysts. They're the people that are actually taking the sales information, and they're doing the analytical review and process of determining and coming up with what they call neighborhoods and with the assessing, and that's quite a bit more than just someone who's just, if they're reviewing the information they're getting from the contractor.
One other thing I'd mention too, I guess, is I always look at the big picture, and I mean, Dan sent out a report Friday that showed that the health insurance is gonna come in much under budget compared to what we originally calculated, so.
Yes.
I mean, that helps make the decision too for me. I mean, I like to take everything into account, yeah.
You're gonna see here what I started doing, and I'm just gonna show you one example out of the AIC that I got down here. Terry Brock, County Surveyor, right now, currently, he's making $54,598. Right now, Boone County Surveyor is, and this is 2020, not 2021. Boone County Surveyor in AIC was making $60,373. Comparable size, 67,195 population. We're a little over 70 now. Hancock County 2020 has it making $59,003, 79,000, a little bit over us. I did not want to use Hendricks, Hamilton, because they're so much different, bigger in population. I could have used Bartholomew, some of the others, but I was trying to stay in the region, so that's why I did. Julie, I got her down at 59,006. I started looking, and I'm thinking, I know they farm it out, but Julie is making a little bit more than them, but not much, and I didn't write them down, but I thought, you guys are probably not gonna take into consideration, they've been doing it in-house since about 2003. That's why they have the stats that they have. They do it in-house. They don't farm out to these companies. It's saving us a lot of money the way they've done it for years. Plus, our data is accurate. Mr. Collier can tell you, Don can tell you, we used to deal with data that was outdated. I mean, they would pick up log cabins back in the woods, $200,000-$300,000 log cabins, been there for 8 years. Wasn't picked up on that 30-mile-an-hour drive-by. So when Brenda made that decision to start doing it in-house, it really helped us. And our data's a lot better than what it ever used to be, so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The urgency is, in 3 elected officials, you cannot change them salaries after you pass the ordinance or at the first of the year. So
Right.
that's why I
That one
wanted to make
cannot
sure I
be,
got
yeah,
in here.
can't wait on those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm agreeable, I guess, but I'm like Kelly, I just want to make sure we don't.
Well, and I think Dan's like, we don't have anybody that was
To
below
do this,
1%.
make sure we're not leaving someone out.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's important. I want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody out.
Dan has looked, there was,
No.
Good.
further discussion, questions? Do we want to act on a motion on this, or, because it is time sensitive, has to be done tonight. Uh-oh, we're going to have a sidebar.
I have an employee, I have a family member that works for the county, and if it involves them, I'm going to abstain from any
Wouldn't give him
action.
0.5% for a
What
bailiff.
Dan
Why
is
would we
saying
do
is it
this?
doesn't affect us.
No,
This is keeping the
no,
job,
no,
they're staying
that's
in the
exactly
same
right.
job description, and we're just giving
Okay.
them.
Any discussion, members?
We're opening it up.
Jason?
I think if we choose to do this, then we revisit the judge. Because why can't we give the raise to the bailiff then?
Yeah.
To give him his differential. I mean, and I don't understand how we can say, okay, well, we're going
Include
to
that
give
in
a
your
1%.
motion.
I don't see how you can, you know what I mean?
You don't count, Grant. He's doing a dance back there.
He was so mad he left, so I. You see what I'm saying?
That in your motion?
Say that.
There's 3 other people up here make motions, people.
We love you, Kelly.
Wants to hear from you. Go for it.
Jason, what do you think? Let's ask Jason. He's been quiet.
Just-
About Jason during budget session, when we were hashing it out, I remember our eye contact and you like, everybody deserves a cost of living increase. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I have thought of the image of that probably 50 times since budget session, because you are right.
Yeah, and I think they brought up, I mean,
Everything that we discussed.
something to work for to get to a different job, there has to be more pay. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
if you do love your job, you want to be compensated well for it. I mean, my problem with this would be that, I mean, I thought we decided we were sticking to the WIS and that was it.
But it's,
So if this is going to be above what we were going to do, I don't see how we do that for just these, as much as I hate it. But,
well, I think we're saying we're sticking to the WIS to a certain,
We're fine tuning it.
we're fine tuning it. Good word, Chip. That
Which,
we've
I
created a
mean-
base that we can work from, and we're beginning the work from. So,
We're not in normal times.
no.
You
No,
know,
we're being faced, this council's being faced with a lot of issues that other councils have not had to address since the Carter years. Excuse me.
Before I was here, I don't remember those years.
I was young, but I remember them.
young whippersnapper.
Just to be clear, President cannot make a motion. So
We
when you
know.
see me look down that way,
We know.
What do you think, Vicki? You're our,
I want to hear from the young blood.
I've told you what I think.
that in the form of a motion?
I'd make a motion for the 2%.
Say that, Jason.
I make the motion that we give the 2% raise to these people that were presented to us from the commissioners.
And did that include the adjustment in the judge's request?
And yeah, the adjustment in that one also.
Okay.
And that'll mean
I
that,
still think that
They
that
still
job
need-
description needs to be
Well, I
looked
think
at and
we'll-
sent back
we'll
to
s-
WIS.
We'll still get that. We'll
Yeah.
follow up
I
on
mean,
that.
we can give them that 9 cents, so we have it ready for January, but it still needs to go back, and then if it needs to be
It could be
changed
more.
or more, then it might be more.
So we have a motion to go with the 2%, also including the judge's request for the 9-cent increase on the bailiff, subject to the WIS study review that could result in a change of that to a further degree. Is that how I'm hearing that?
all employees get at least a 2%.
Yes. That is a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Melissa Green seconds that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
I'm abstaining.
I apologize. Correction on the count. It is 5 with 1 abstention. All right, so that, let me put my glasses back on. Okay, is there any other business to come before the council this evening? Any comments from the public?
So it's like we're doing it.
Got to do our annual picture.
And I have a couple of other things that we need to just clean up. We signed one correction to that salary ordinance last meeting of the 15th to amend the nurses to non-exempt. It didn't have the header on the thing, and so we just need to sign another one that has that header on it. And then also, one last thing before we move on. I had a couple more things. You all received your schedules for 2022.
Yes.
We actually need to adopt that schedule. So I look for a motion to adopt the schedule as presented.
Kelly Akala will make the motion to adopt the schedule for the 2022 meetings as presented.
I'll second, just noting that I'm going to be late to the one budget.
We understand. There'll be situations like that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Sign. Motion carries for the adoption of the schedule 6-0. I'm sorry,
We
Mr. Hale?
all three of us deeply want to thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, and one, can I make the announcement about the 1782?
Josh, will you let the courts know that you got,
Okay. Our auditor did receive notice that our 1782, which I think a lot of you are familiar with, was approved as presented. So it looks like our budget.
Our budget, yeah, our 2022 budget has been approved as adopted. The 1782 notice is the preliminary notice telling us that the DLGF did approve that. If we had any changes we wanted to make or anything, that's our time to do that. I sent it back, no changes. The one thing they did with your change from your adoption is that you adopted a budget for the bond issue but that didn't get done because the bond issue didn't happen before the end of the year, so they took that out. Well, with the changes, and you gotta give me time to make these changes, because I need
it's a
you
good
to sign
decision.
it. Don't run off.
Everybody hang on a minute because we did make changes to this salary ordinance, so Dan's got to input those. Then we actually have to vote on that
You
change.
can go
and-
ahead and vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking for a motion to, we did go through a lot of changes, so I'm looking for a motion to, based on the amendments that we made this evening, to pass the 2022 salary ordinance with those amendments. Correct?
Kelly Akala will make a motion to approve the 2022 salary ordinance with all changes as presented this evening.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all for your input, it is appreciated.
Let's see what Vicky got.
Somebody text Pete, that'll make him happy.
Yeah.
in your bags, those little balls are cocoa bombs, and you put it in a cup, and you pour 6 ounces of hot milk on top, and it'll
Make hot chocolate.
Nice, I may do that tonight, thanks.
I
Vicky.
may too.
Thank you, Vicki.
Yes, thank you very much, Vicki, for the presence. Are we
That's really
adjourned?
sweet.
I think we had a really good working year together. I like the fact that we can all say our piece and our opinions, and I like this fact that we're all here together. We're a
Yes.
good group.
Oh,
I
yeah, I look,
appreciate that
still
we're all,
respect each other.
yeah, we can agree to